Hey guys, right, another rig. Quelle surprise, eh? I know these are getting a little bit stale, but it's not a case of I want you to watch them back to back or one after another, or they're there as an information resource as and when you need them. At least that's the hope. I don't know. Anyway, so what have we done so far? We've done, this year we've looked at the pulley dropper, the Wessex, and the, what have we just done? I've literally just tied it and it's gone from my mind already. Oh, the up and over. So we're going to, just for my sanity, tie something a bit easier, because that up and over blagged my head a little bit. A lot of people have asked if I can show the way I use a pennel rig. So the ones I tie for myself. And I've put it off and put it off and put it off. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for you now, because I have found that I've started using a pennel rig, a pulley pennel rig, sorry, a pulley rig, in a more regular rotation. But I've just downsized the hooks as we're heading into spring summer. Instead of the 3/0s, 4/0s and maybe even 5/0s that you're using for cod, I'm dropping them down to 2/0s. So without further ado, I'm going to try and keep this one really, really short, and I'll see you in a sec. And I'm going to shut this door. The pennel rig, or the pulley rig, sorry, to use its proper term, the pulley rig. The pennel rig, the reason why a lot of people sort of get stared at a little bit blank when they're new fishermen, when they say, oh, what are you using? I'm using a pennel rig. But a pennel rig, that is just the term for the second hook on a rig. So if you've got two hooks on a rig body, if you've got two hooks on the same snood, so you've got your bottom hook, and then you've got one wound on behind it, or as I do, rig tubed on behind it, that is what's called the pennel. The rig itself, in this instance, is called just a pulley rig. You know, you've already seen me do the pulley dropper. Now that has got two pennel snoods on it. So it's got two snoods on it. Two hook lengths, snoods, both of which have got pennel hooks on them. That's the difference. So I'm going to show you how I use a pennel rig. Now, yes, I'm going to use a smaller diameter and weaker hook length, but I'm not a power caster. So I should be relatively safe in doing so. If you are a power caster, or if you're trying to learn how to power cast, I recommend tying this with 60 to 70 pound all the way through. Even if you put the swivel in, do two lengths of 60 to 70 pound. I'm going to tie this with 60 and then 30. And I just have to bear in mind that when I'm using this rig, that I'm not off the ground casting, I'm not pendulum casting, I'm just overheading it. Not saying that's still 100% safe, but it is what it is. I'm not thumping it. Honestly, I've been using this rig for 2 years in the same sort of setup, and I've never had it snap on me. But never, ever say never. There's always the once, and I mean, the power at which we send those leads, if you sit on back at head, you go into hospital. You're not continuing fishing. So do bear that in mind. In fact, you know what? Having said all that, I'm going to try it. I've never tied one using 60 pounds straight through, but I tell you what, let's give it a go. So for my pulley rigs, generally speaking, I go for a 3-foot rig body. Okay, so grab that, 3-foot rig body, and then a 2 to 2.5 foot hook snood. Depends what you're targeting. I do tend to find that when I'm targeting the smooth hounds on the beaches that you regularly see me fish for smooth hounds, so on the likes of Bonkers Bank in Cleethorpes, where it's a long, flat, smooth beach, I do find the shorter pennel rig, so a 2 foot rig body and a 1.5 foot hook snood, is more effective. However, last year I was equally effective with a 3.5 foot pennel paternoster rig, which you're also going to see me tie in another video. So it does come down to preference. It's about knowing the ground on which you're fishing and adapting the rig to its purpose. The reason the pennel rig shot, the pulley rig, sorry, even I do it. The reason the pulley rig shot into popularity was its simplicity. It's low cost, easy to use, pretty damn versatile, to the point where it can be used on smooth beaches, it can be used on rocky locations because of how it works, and we'll come to that. So as always, mainline £85 mainline swivel from Gemini. Now I'm going to tie this as if I was using a weaker hook snood length, but as we've already discussed, I'm actually not going to do that this time. But I'm still going to use a snood swivel. Okay. No, I'm not. Not yet, I'm not. Because I'm doing it again. I'm not putting on my weight attachment point. Okay. A couple of El Cheapo beads is what you need. So your Poundland beads. Like I say, if you're not using them backed up against a crimp, you don't need the expensive beads. You don't need to use the expensive Gemini beads. You can use the cheap beads. Save the expensive beads for up against crimps, up against soft knots, things, stop knots, things like that. Because these that you get off eBay or from the Poundland, you tend to find the hole in the middle is a little bit bigger than it would be, or than it is with the proper rig fishing beads. So we're going to go bead. Yep, that's on. Then we're going to go Gemini poly bead. You could use a swivel if you really wanted to. You could just use a plain old swivel. The reason behind the pulley beads and the specific beads designed for this purpose is less line abrasion. That's all it is. Then we're going to put a snood swivel on, be it a mainline swivel or a slightly weaker snood swivel. 1, 2, 8, 4. In this instance, I've actually used a slightly posher, although unnecessary, stainless steel swivel. They're smaller for a higher sort of poundage. So this is actually a 90. It's either 90 or 100 pounds. I'm not too sure which. Which is far more than I'll need, but it was there. And it was annoying me that it was the last one sat there, so we'll use it up on this rig. Okay, so that is your rig body done. Simple as. Yeah, that's your lead attachment point. That's your mainline attachment point. That's where your hook snood's going to go. I did say I was going to tie this with the stronger £70. So measure, if you want, measure your rig body, see what you've actually come out at. I've come out at just under 3 foot. And what you can do is sort of match that, because by the time you've tied on your hooks, if you're like me, you'll lose more than your hook length in the knot. So I've gone to 2.5 feet. Okay, for my hook snood, I've gone to 2.5 feet. Now to stop things flying off the back, I will attach this straight away onto the snood swivel. Make sure I'm on the right swivel. Not that it'd really matter, I suppose, in this instance, but okay. Now, I'd said this is one that, you know, so it's got a few embellishments on it. So you're going to see the return of a piece of rig tubing. Okay, so I'm leaving my tag on because I want this to kick away. So I'm not using as long a piece as you've seen me use in the past, but I am going to use around about, what would you say that is? 2.5, maybe 3 inches of rig tubing. Okay. It just helps to ensure that that hook snood kicks away and helps reduce the chances of it tangling up. Doesn't stop it tangling up, it just helps reduce. And like I say, as I've said, this is the ones that I tie for me. Alright. I do have the option to buy them like this from me as well. Although I haven't really promoted any rig tying for a long time. Because I don't really actually enjoy tying rigs that much. So wet that down, slide it up as much we can, because this is a knot in 70-pound line. This is a little bit more difficult, but it's getting there. I do tend to find that just running your finger and thumb over it is usually the most effective way of putting it up and over the swivel and knot. I think, to be fair, oh no, it's going now. I was just going to say, I think the knot would hold the silicone quite well, but we're up over the eye of the swivel now, so that's fine. We're where I want it to be. Okay. A lot of people are going to say, "Oh, what are you doing that for? It's silly. It's a waste of time." It's personal preference. It's what I like. Okay. Same as I like a little bit of a stopper. Okay, and I like to secure my pennel hook with another piece of silicone as well. So we're going to have a little stopper, and I found that since I've started adding these little embellishments, and I mean it's just a couple of pieces of rig tubing, it's not massive. Okay, so, and I found that since I've started adding these little stoppers and little bits and pieces, that my hookup has increased. So, you know, it's continuous improvement, in my opinion. Okay, now I am going 2.0 and 2.0 on this, because this will primarily be used for bass and things like that. So, as always, I'm now caught up with my pliers. As always with a pennel hook, make sure you go through the front of the eye. It just helps set the hook properly. Okay. Or with your circle hook, sorry, make sure you go through the front of the eye. Although I suppose you should with any pennel hook. And then this is decidedly easier than putting the silicone over a 4.0 or 3.0, whatever it was I just used, a 4.0. You could downsize to 1mm silicone. I've never had any problem with the 1.5mm silicone, not provided you go all the way over the eye. Okay, and then we're going to put 2.0 Scuba Manta Extra on the bottom. Okay. Generally speaking, I don't bother with any beads or anything for show or for attraction, but I'm hoping next year to get out on the place a bit more. It's not the focus this year. The focus this year has been bass and rise. Take your tag length off, and that's the pulley rig tied. It is that simple. And like I said, the embellishments I add are solely pretty much the little bits of silicone. Okay, so I'll show you it in use. Another one of these. I keep taking this little genie link clip off the lead and leaving it on the rig, and I should leave it on the lead really. Okay, so Do you know? More speed, less haste. Mainline attachment point is your pulley bead. Do you know? I think, to be honest, this is going to be my last one today because it's clear that my head's not in it. Right, so lead, mainline attachment point. Okay. Now I use a swivel as my mainline attachment point, but in this case, you know, I've got a normal, what you would call normal, bait clip or rig clip. So that would just clip on without one of those adapters. It depends entirely on what you tie on the end of your main line. Okay. Come here. You can see I just pulled on just the hook, and just that one hook, that bit of silicone on that one hook has got enough grip in it to move the lead. So you can see overall my hook snood is shorter by about 4 or 5 inches than my rig body. And that's it. Clip down. Okay, so you've got the Gemini there, swivels, hooks, skimmer hooks, swivel, piece of elastic, and then when it releases, see, that bit of silicone just helps to kick those hooks away from your main line or from the rig body. And it sits in the water. Hopefully, if you've tied it right, it sits on the bottom. But there you go. The pulley rig, nice and simple. I'm going to call that a day today because clearly twice now I've forgotten how to rig up a rig properly. Head's just not in it today, guys. So I'm going to call that a day. And yeah, until next time, guys, stay safe, tight lines. I'll see you later.